Hello and welcome to RS Agarwal's IAS. In this video of the Daily News Express, let us discuss the important topics appearing in the Hindu newspaper dated 23rd December 2020. Let us get started. This is the list of topics that we'll be discussing today. First, we'll talk about the correction of the healthcare system with a new law being proposed by the parliamentary panel. Then we'll talk about the political accountability in a democracy with regards to how several countries have handled the COVID-19 pandemic, among others. Then we'll talk about the farmers' agitation. Some new perspective has been provided in the Hindu newspaper. Then we'll discuss a few aspects about the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code. We'll talk about building back better through the Paris Agreement and other important contributions towards climate change. We'll talk about the few aspects with regards to biodiversity from your prelims point of view, and then we'll end the discussion by learning a few map points. Starting from the first article, we'll talk about correcting the healthcare system. This caters to GS paper 2. Now, parliamentary panels call for new health law post COVID-19 is a kernel for reform. So now, in the COVID-19 pandemic, what we saw that the healthcare system of India and the loopholes in the healthcare system were widely exposed to the world and to the Indian people. So now what is needed is a comprehensive public health act that will fix various loopholes and make this fragmented health system a full-fledged proper health system for the people to make use of. So we know various things. Firstly, we have understood from the national health profile of 2019 that we estimated that 0.55 government hospital beds per thousand population was seen, and there was heavy underinvestment, that is 1.1% of GDP being spent on healthcare. There was over reliance on private healthcare or private hospitals that are widely expensive and heavily unregulated. This scenario was worsened in the rural areas. So all these problems were seen. We saw a lack of staff, very low number of doctors per patients, nurses per doctors. All these things came into picture. So now what we will be needing is a new law, a comprehensive framework that will first of all curb profiteering. It will have a robust healthcare system which will predominantly be cashless in nature, should address the asymmetrical structural problems in the health system, should have guidelines and policies will be streamlined, should be streamlined and should be working towards the favor of the people. And we have to understand that right to health should be made an important thing and should be universalized. See, India has also given its commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals where we are prioritizing health. So making right to health is an important thing. We should take this into consideration. Going further, some observations have also been seen that there is absence of insurance cover. There is absence of insurance cover for older age citizens. As you know, insurance policies have their own nitty-gritties. They have it for some people, they don't have it for some people, and older people above 65 years have these things. So how will those people who are above 65 will be able to fulfill their own demands? So one thing. Second observation, we have seen that patients have been turned away during a crisis like a pandemic. They have been turned away, they have been moved away. So this has to be reduced, and the government should come into picture with regards to streamlining, be it policies, be it vaccine, be it drugs. All this place governments has to come into picture. So all in all, a legal reform will be required in the form of the Public Healthcare Act, and this will talk about time-bound transition from a very fragmented health system to a proper health system. Then we'll talk about universalizing healthcare. This is the most important thing. If we universalize healthcare, we can see the people will have good kind of health, good kind of nutrition, good kind of a standard of living also. And we should reduce the dependence on private sector. And most importantly, for all this to come into reality, we have to increase public healthcare spending. So we are spending 1.1% of the GDP. We have to increase it. For a country like India, we have to make it at least more than 4%, so that everything will be streamlined in the proper manner and profiteering from the private hospitals will be curbed and people will have good access to a good healthcare system. So it's a very good call actually given by this parliamentary panel. It provides for a very good framework. Hopefully this will be done and we will have a better healthcare system than we actually do. Going further, the second topic talks about political accountability in a democracy. This caters to GS paper 2 as well as GS paper 4. Now, this author takes a very nuanced view. He is pretty negative about the way things have panned out in COVID-19 and how various leaders have taken their stances. Of course, it's personal opinion, but we have a few takeaways from this article. So, he's quoting the examples of several leaders of the world who pretty much failed at their task or pretty much failed at how a pandemic has to be dealt with, right? We saw great countries like USA, UK, India, Brazil, Russia expose themselves at the way they handle pandemic, be it the healthcare system, be it the economic control, or the preparedness to face something like a pandemic. It is believed that they all failed, and the roles that the world leaders have played in the pandemic shows their general awareness, their awareness about the people of the country, and the steps that they have taken also pretty much describes their attitude towards governance, is what the author is saying. Now, we saw in USA, pretty much a change was there. Donald Trump was not doing the right thing when it comes to USA, and USA was one of the worst affected countries in the world. And then came UK. Now we are seeing a new strain arising, and it's not being controlled properly. Then we saw Brazil, Mr. Jair Bolsonaro, who is the president, did not even take the thing seriously, and he opened the lockdown. As a result, Brazil became one of the worst affected nations in the world. Then Russia, we saw how Putin was more inclined towards making a vaccine than protecting the people. And of course, he's talking about India, where unprecedented lockdown was announced without considering anything for that matter, without considering the scenario of the labor migrants, without considering how the economy will go into shambles. So all these kind of decisions talk about how the leaders are playing, and this brings into account political accountability in a democracy. How these political leaders are accountable in a democracy. And he puts forward several things. Let's say voting, or let's say elections, or simply point out the popularity of these leaders. Even though they have done these kind of things that are not very acceptable to most segments of the population around the world, they have still managed to be top leaders of the world. They have still managed to win elections. So what is this aspect of voting that is coming into picture? Here the author is saying that voting we are not doing on the basis of performance these days. We are not doing on the basis of the way the leaders have been, the leaders have behaved, the decisions they have taken, but we are doing it from the charismatic personality point of view, or how we do not want our opponents, or we do not want an ideological inclination to come into picture. So all these things have been pointed out by the author, and that is why there is reduction of political accountability in a democracy, is what the authors are is what the author is saying. So how this COVID-19 pandemic exposed health problems, about how much attention these charismatic leaders around the world paid to the health system, how much attention they paid to poverty, how much attention they paid to class disparity, about how there was differences in classes. Let's say when there was a pandemic, there was one class of people that did not seem to be affected at all. All they did was they protected themselves, but the one class of people had to struggle to sustain themselves, to have a standard of living, have two square meals a day. So the kind of preparedness, the division of the classes, the class disparity, social equality, draconian laws, all these things come into picture, and that is where accountability is needed in a place like a democracy, as a democratic setup. All these countries I spoke to you about, Russia, UK, USA, Brazil, all these are a democratic setup, but what we see is lack of political accountability, is what the author is saying. So if you see with some leaders getting off lightly, the deeper challenges to democratic control of politicians need to be understood. So this aspect caters to GS paper 4 ethics. Political accountability in a democracy is something that we need to consider and speak about. Going further, let's talk about farmers agitation. You know that it's been a constant topic of debate and discussion. There are some developments being mentioned that is catering to our UPSC preparation from GS2 point of view. Now, Supreme Court has said that you need to have a joint panel. The government needs to have a joint panel so that they can come in confrontation with the farmers and solve their problems. This is what the Supreme Court has said. Of course, the farmers are okay with this decision, and they believe that this is a ray of light for them to bring out a solution to their problem. That is to put an end to this draconian farm bills, as they're calling it. And it also provides them a space legally so that they can approach the court to bring their problems in, because the whole perspective holistically is saying that center has encroached on the state list, right? So center is not supposed to do that except in a few circumstances, but in general, center has encroached on the state list where it has legislated on the subject of agriculture. So now the things are coming into picture. The various problems that the farmers are saying. First is they're saying that we will be exposed to market price fluctuations, where there will be corporate entities coming in, and we will be left at the mercy of the corporates. We will not have mandis. That means where will we sell? We'll have to sell to these corporates only. Of course, they will we will be at the receiving end, and there is no MSP that has been promised by the government. All these things are coming into picture. Now, firstly, if you talk about the corporates, the author is saying that corporate structure or incoming of the corporates in the uh, farmers sector or the agriculture sector will threat 56% of the total workforce, will be a threat to 56% of the total workforce, and 86.8% of small and marginal farmers, because these people are very vulnerable and these people are very weak. Second, the farmers are saying that the reforms are not acceptable as there is an issue for them in various things, that is the corporate MSP, etc. Added to this, the government is trying to bring in the Electricity Amendment Act. Now, this Electricity Amendment Act wants to fully privatize the distribution of power. Now, the farmers believed again this will put them at the risk of the privatized corporate entities, and they will have to beg them for better solutions. And the farmers are also talking about the Essential Commodities Act that provides for lifting of stockholding limits. There was a stockholding limit imposed previously. Now they are asking for the lifting of stockholding limit on the essential commodities, and any trader, any company, any agribusiness will be able to store unlimited quantities. This will result in what you call as hoarding. So all these farmers, all these problems are being pointed out. Added to this, like I told you earlier, MSP is the biggest issue. Now, please understand the fact that MSP is provided for 23 commodities today, but MSP does not have a legal backing, nor does it have a statutory backing. All right, please understand this. No legal, no statutory backing, but the government is doing because the government is supposed to do it, and the government also needs the produce, and the farmers have to be supported somehow or the other. So this is one of the biggest issues, where now itself there is no legal statutory backing for MSP. What if mandis are gone? Mandis are the bulwark of where MSP comes into picture. If mandis are gone, where will we sell? And slowly and steadily the concept of MSPs will fade. As a result, we need in general the concept of MSP so that we can apply it with the corporate structures also. Apart from this, the fragmented landholding structure of Indian farming system is not a suitable solution for these things to come into picture, because if they sign agreements with the corporates, they'll have to do mechanization, and mechanization does not work in very small fragmented landholdings, because it will eventually lead the land to lose its fertility. So that the government is also saying that we will start over 10,000 farmer produce organizations by 2023-2024, which will be registered as a company or a cooperative. And this farmer produce organizations will hire a promoter who will be from a private entity, who will be from an NGO, who will probably be from an agri-business consortium. So if they come together, they will have to pay some money to this promoter to sell their produce. Again, they'll have to incur a lot of uh, costs, and it will be a problem to the farmers. So the farm laws are nothing but a big trouble for the farmers and the government. And what the government should do in this regard is just to put the farm laws on hold, the author is saying, and the government should have a wider consultation with the people to ask them about what is happening and what can we do, or how it can be done with regards to the farm bill, and what the farmers need, and how the solutions could be provided. So this is what this author is saying with regards to the farmers agitation. I know you are continuously learning about this, you must be tired, but it becomes our duty to understand this point of view, or this concept, or this issue from various perspectives, so that we can come up with our own perspective. Of course, we cannot impose our perspective on anyone, but then we have to be aware of what is happening from all sides, so that an all-encompassing narrative can be created in our heads. Going further, we are going to learn about the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code because the government has put on hold the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code considering the problem of the COVID-19 pandemic and how people are not able to pay back their loans and these kind of things. So that's the news. Again, not important from UPSC point of view, but what is important is the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code catering to GS paper 3 as well as prelims examination. Now there are two things, insolvency and bankruptcy. What is the meaning of insolvency? Textbook definition of insolvency is that situation where individuals or companies are unable to pay back their debt. They are insolvent. They are unable to pay back their debt. But bankruptcy is something different. Bankruptcy is a situation where a court of competent jurisdiction has declared a person or an entity insolvent. Let me repeat, bankruptcy is a situation where a court or a competent authority has declared a person or an entity insolvent and it is having passed appropriate orders to resolve it and protect the rights of the creditor. They have to resolve it and protect the rights of the creditor. It is also the legal declaration of one's ability to pay off their debt. So this is a stage, right? First comes insolvency and then comes bankruptcy. So these are the two different things. It's not one thing. So please understand this. Now, the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, if you talk about, it was enacted in the year 2016. Why was it done? Because before then, 2016, we had various laws when it came to bankruptcy and insolvency aspect or resolving these problems. Various laws were there. As a result, this situation or this issue was delayed for a very long time. The government, what they did, they replaced this host of laws with one law for streamlined resolution of the process to resolve this failed businesses. The code, the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, also consolidate provisions of the current legislative framework with regards to debtors, creditors, and to resolve their insolvency. Apart from this, the code also says that the resolution process of the stressed company will have to be completed in maximum 270 days. In maximum 270 days, it has to be completed. So this is about the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code. And let us go further a little bit and learn something more about this. So the question arises, when does IBC apply? When does IBC apply or when does Insolvency Bankruptcy Code come into picture? The government this year, 2020, has raised the threshold under the IBC to 1 crore rupees, which was previously 1 lakh rupees. So if you're not able to pay back 1 crore rupees, so you will have to get into this insolvency bankruptcy proceeding where they will solve your problems. So this is when the IBC will come into picture. When you are not able to pay back this much amount of money, you will have to say that you are insolvent or you need this resolving procedure to come into picture. Now, various institutions have been created with regards to the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code. They can call them as insolvency professionals. You can call it as insolvency professional agencies. You can call them insolvent. You can say information utilities, adjudicating authorities, insolvency bankruptcy board. Most important thing is the insolvency bankruptcy board. Now this board will regulate the insolvency professionals. This will regulate the insolvency professional agencies and information utilities. Now this will consist of representatives from the Reserve Bank of India. This will consist of people from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Apart from the insolvency bankruptcy board, you have the adjudicating authorities. These are two. One is National Companies Law Tribunal and the other is Debt Recovery Tribunal. The difference between the two is that the NCLT, National Companies Law Tribunal, is for companies and Debt Recovery Tribunal is for individuals. So it's not just a company that can go bankrupt, it can be individual also. So this is the thing about the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code that you need to be aware of from UPSC point of view. I hope you've understood it. If you have any doubts, please feel free to write in the comment section. Going further, building back better. Now we have seen that 5 years of the Paris Agreement have been completed and India attended the Climate Ambition Summit virtually. And here with India, European Union was showing strong commitment to solve this problem. Now the point here remains that of course we have completed 5 years, we have done sufficient progress. What we were affected with the biggest challenge is the COVID-19 pandemic. So this pandemic was a very big issue And now this pandemic is also, from one perspective, a good thing because it's provided us place to do recovery, in the right way. And the author is saying we need stronger recovery where we are focusing on green, the question of green. So what we need is green recovery, green growth, not just brown recovery, infrastructure recovery or infrastructure growth, but green recovery and green growth. Now, if you talk about European Union came up with the European Green Deal, where they wanted to, or their idea was to achieve climate neutrality by 2030. So this is a very good initiative that the European Union took as a part of this, as a part of their involvement in the Paris Agreement, and they allowed a good budget for this, and then all the countries came together, wider consultation and wider debate was happening on this thing. So this is about European Union. What is important is talking about India. Now, India has been very amazing. India has an amazing progress with regards to renewable energy, with regards to achieving targets, with regard to abating pollution. Of course, air pollution is a very big issue today, but then the targets that we had set for ourselves, we are reaching it slowly and steadily. Now, if you talk about India and its separate initiatives, the International Solar Alliance is a very good initiative. Then you can talk about the CDRI, or the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, where we are trying to fight disasters. And then with this came the leadership group for industry transition that India was a part of. And then several things like this India put forward for our country to fight COVID-19. So and also to go ahead to deal with climate change. Not just these initiatives are enough, but teamwork is needed, funding is needed, right? So teamwork, as in all these states should come together in India. They should come together and they should fight this problem of the climate change, and ambition has to be set and proper funds have to be devolved for this particular problem. What we need to aim at is building back better. So you need to quote this in your answers. It will be very helpful and give us some good amount of weightage. Building back better should be a thing. And not just wider participation of governments, but also smallest and the most inclusive participation will also play an important role, and mobilization will be the key, where we'll have scientists, academicians, politicians, and policy makers, civil society organizations all come together to develop a good solution to solve this problem, to fight the climate change as a holistic challenge and build back better, is what the author is saying. So we learn here we owe it to the next generation who have to bear the burden of climate change and pay off the debt of the recovery. So for the next generation, at least, we have to do it. We have to do it in the right way so that we don't become a problem to them, and it shouldn't look like our ancestors created problem for us. Going further, we have biodiversity for prelims examinations. Very important. UPSC is so inclined towards asking questions with regards to environment, ecology, biodiversity. So here we are seeing the picture of Western Ghats, and is a home to 3,387 leopards. So this is the highest concentration of leopards. And in general, or on total, India has an estimated population of 12,852 leopards, and 3,387 are located in the Western Ghats. Now it's a good chunk of population, and we have to note the fact that Karnataka has the highest amount of leopards, followed by Tamil Nadu and followed by Kerala. Karnataka has the highest number of leopards. So the thing about leopards is important from UPSC point of view. This is placed under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. The leopard is placed in the Appendix 1 of CITES, and the leopard is considered vulnerable according to the IUCN. 9 subspecies of leopards are present in Africa and Asia. So there are a few things that we have to understand from this point of view. You can see 650 leopards in Kerala, third highest number, and Goa has 86 leopards. So there are a few names here that come into picture that you should be aware of. And the forest names, let's say there is the Haliyal Kali Tiger Reserve, which is located in Karnataka. You have the Kudremukh Shettihalli Wildlife Sanctuary, again located in Karnataka. You have the Bhadra, again located in Karnataka. Then you have Virajpete, Nagarhole, Bandipur, Mudumalai, Satyamangala, Nilgiris, Silent Valley, Wayanad, BRT, that is Biligiri Rangana Hills, Mudumalai Hills, Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, Bannerghatta National Park. All these are located in Western Ghats. All these are a part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. So this becomes very important from UPSC point of view. Please note this. Let me read out those are located in Karnataka: Virajpete, Nagarhole, Bandipur, Beligiri Rangana Hills, and Bannerghatta are all located in Karnataka. Mudumalai is located in Kerala. Nilgiris is located in Tamil Nadu. So these different things that you should be aware of. And a second cluster have been pointed out where you have Parambikulam, Anamalai, Ervikulam that are located in Kerala. So all these things are very important from UPSC point of view. You have to note it and you have to be aware of what is being spoken. Second is the concept related to the Great Indian Bustards. Now this is a picture of the Great Indian Bustard. You must have heard it. It's a very, very important bird for India because nowadays the population has been constantly reducing. So the Great Indian Bustard is critically endangered. So it's very important because there are very few birds that are critically endangered, and this is critically endangered according to the IUCN Red List. It is in the Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1 and Appendix 1 of CITES. So this becomes very important. Let us learn some facts about the Great Indian Bustard. Great Indian Bustard is one of the heaviest flying birds. It's a very heavy bird, but it can fly. It's a primarily a terrestrial bird, and it is predominantly found in the regions of Rajasthan and some parts of Maharashtra, among others. And in Karnataka also, in Maharashtra also, their habitat is present. And it is said that today less than 150 birds are there, and they are continuously suffering from you can say encroachment, or you can say poaching, because of aspects like what do you say as hunting. You can say impact on their food habitat, attack by dogs and foxes. All these things are there that are impacting the thing about the Great Indian Bustard. Going further, we are learning some map points from UPSC point of view. Now, map points, these three articles are there in the paper that will bring us to this perspective. First, we learn about Israel. So, this is the map of Israel. So, you see, Israel opens to the Mediterranean Sea. This is very important. And it is surrounded by countries: Jerusalem, number one; Jordan, number two; Egypt, number three; Syria, number four; Lebanon, number five. So the capital of is what is the capital of Israel? Write to me in the comment section. You can find it in the map itself. So again, let me repeat. It opens in the Mediterranean Sea. It's located here. You see, this is the map of West Asia, or you can say Gulf, and it's surrounded by Jerusalem, Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and yeah, this is about it. And going further, we'll learn about Nigeria. Nigeria is an important city located in southwestern Africa. You see this picture here. It is surrounded by various countries, namely Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Benin. Four countries: Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Benin. Nigeria opens to the Atlantic Ocean, predominantly to the Gulf of Guinea or the Bight of Benin. It's called as the Bight of Benin on Gulf of Guinea. It opens to the Atlantic Ocean. Lastly, we learn about this country called as Morocco, which is located in the extreme west, northwest of Africa. This region is called as the, you can say, Maghreb region. Maghreb in Arabic means towards the west. So Morocco is surrounded by two countries. One is Western Sahara, and the other one is Algeria. It is connected to the Spain, which is this strait. Write to me in the comment section. And it opens to the Atlantic Ocean also. It opens to the Mediterranean Sea also. Well, that's it from today's R Radio. Please cut it. Well, that's it for today's Daily News Express, guys. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Write to me in the comment section about what you felt. If you have any doubts or discrepancies, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay safe, take care, bye.